start. Perfect. So first, some introductions are due. I'm Claudia Alessio. I'm a city strategist at Circular Economy, and I've helped develop some of the evidence base that cities like Toronto and Montreal today will present that they have used to advance the circular agenda. I'm joined here by my colleague Pau and Lou, who have also worked with many cities and regions present today and beyond. Pau as a research analyst, and Lou thanks to our work on digital tools and as a product owner. And we all work for Circular Economy Foundation. For those who don't know us yet, we are an impact-driven foundation aimed at accelerating the circular economy transition globally, working with cities, but also nations and businesses. And we have co-organized also the World Circular Economy Forum this year. Before we start, we also want to stop 1 second for some housekeeping. If you could please use the chat to let us know your name, role, and where you're based. This is mainly for us to get to know you, but also for you to get to know who's in the room and who's attending the webinar today. So while you take your time to fill this in, I'll share some guidelines for today's session. Your camera and microphone are unavailable during the webinar format. So if you have any questions, there are 2 things you can do. You can either use the Q&A feature in Zoom. We'll look at that during our panel discussion, or the chat as well. If you need caption or translation, you can use the show caption function and select your preferred language. The captions are pretty good for English, but the translation is AI generated, so it's not perfect, but it might still help you throughout the session. Lastly, if you experience any technical issue, you can send a private message in the chat, and our colleague, especially Lou, can help you.
Yeah, actually, sorry to interrupt, Claudia. I'm wondering if the chat is inactive for participants. It seems like just the panelists are able to.
Does it work now?
Can someone for the participant try sending a message? Yes. Yeah. Okay, very good.
Thank you. All technical issues already.
Good.
Hello, everyone. Nice. This is our agenda for the day. Again, this is one of the very few sessions focusing on a Canadian perspective in the forum. We will start by seeing why cities are important in the circular economy transition and how Canadian and European contexts could learn from each other. We will hear from our speakers that will present their circular economy journey so far. And finally, we will open the discussion to the audience for our panel discussion before we close with some more practical information. So without further ado, let's begin. I'm sure that many of you today are familiar with the topic, but we'll take just 5 minutes before we start to kind of like level the playing field and answer one of the main questions. So why do we need a circular economy? And we can do this with a few key data points. So today, we are consuming 100 billion tons of materials every year. Since we launched the Circularity Gap Report, the report that actually measured this in 2018, so just in a few years until now, we have consumed nearly as much materials than in the entirety of the 20th century. And this is also estimated by the UN that it can increase and nearly double again. This volume of extractions and consumption puts a lot of pressure on the environment. 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries have already been crossed. And we need to stay within planetary boundaries to ensure that we can only consume what the Earth can safely replenish. And we're not doing that so far. The circular economy could help us do exactly that and reach those goals. Especially because we also know that 70% of our total global emissions are actually embedded in the material that we consume through everyday products like our cars and the food we consume every day. So for a more sustainable future, we must rethink how we use resources and tackle emissions also from a material perspective. And that's why the circular economy is important. The good news is that if we combine the effects that a circular economy agenda could have with the climate goals, as in the Paris Agreement, we see that we can deliver the needs of our growing population with 30% less materials than we use today. So that means less land, less pollution, and less energy. And the Circularity Gap Report in 2021 also illustrated that combining these two agendas, the climate and the circular economy agenda, can reverse the overshoot that we see on our planetary boundaries and keep us on a path to no more than 2 degrees of warming. So in this case, the main message is that the circular economy is important because it becomes a means to an end. In 2023, however, we estimated that the world is only 7.2% circular. That means that only 7.2% of the materials that we consume are cycled back into the economy. And this leaves what we call a circularity gap. The bad news is that in 2021, the world was 8.6% circular. So global circularity is going down. In Canada, especially, cities and regions have kickstarted the transition and started to work towards circular economy goals. But while we see that the world's circularity sits at 7.2, a new report by the Council of Canadian Academies found that the country is at a similar level, 6.1% of all the materials that the country consumes are cycled back. Of course, methodological differences apply, but this is just to give an idea of where we stand today in terms of global and Canadian circularity. And why cities? So yeah, cities hold the true potential to close the circularity gap. And we should know how circular they are, but we don't know yet, at least not clearly. What we know is that cities consume 2/3 of global energy. They're responsible for 75% of greenhouse gas emissions, 70% of global material extraction, and also 60 to 70% of waste generated globally. So although cities are driving many of the environmental problems, they can also be the solutions for multiple reasons. Well, they are where people meet, create, and innovate, and they're also where globally 80% of GDP concentrates. So they do not lack resources, they use many of them, but for this, they're also an ideal intervention point for change towards a more sustainable urban development. And why are especially Canadian and European cities important? Well, they should drive the circular transition mainly for 2 reasons, among many others, but today we both want to show that, well, they are showing high level of urbanization. So both Canadian and European cities show urbanizations higher than global averages. Almost 3 out of 4 people live in cities in these 2 geographies. And most importantly, they are those regions that consume the most in our economy, together, of course, with North America at large. And we consume well above what our planet can safely replenish. So as you can see on this slide, while Europe stands at 14 tons per capita, Canada's domestic yearly consumption of materials sits at 28.8 tons. This is 2 and 3 times higher than the sustainable level calculated to be 8 tons. So we have still a long way to go. And we're here today because we all believe that the circular economy is a great tool to achieve sustainable urban development. We're not alone. Circularity has reached a mega trend status. Circular economy strategies or roadmaps at local, regional, and national level are increasing rapidly. We've seen many presented at the World Circular Economy Forum this year. Overall, worldwide, there are over 50 national circular economy strategies and more under development. 70 cities in Europe have also developed one. And in Canada, there are not as many, but they're quickly catching up. And you will see that from Toronto and Montreal later on. And just a few points. This is also a global landscape that is very heterogeneous. Strategies and roadmap are very different with different focus areas. And overall, we can see that there is a low level of quantification and measurement. And that's still one of the key areas that we should work on. This will soon change, and I think that's how I want to conclude this intro. As of 2023, indeed, we can finally quantify the circular economy in cities by applying our Circularity Gap Report methodology. Munich and Montreal have pioneered this methodology, and we hope that many will follow. And basically what we do is, via this methodology, we provide a baseline of circularity in urban areas. So we try to quantify how circular cities and regions are. We map how resources flow through these urban systems, and we provide a set of circular indicators that can help monitor the performance of circularity over time. And based on this, what we can also do is develop what-if scenarios. So we allow cities to dream big and shed light on the potential impact of key interventions in reducing both material and carbon footprint. And today, actually, we will hear from one of our speakers on how Montreal has used this methodology to inform its circular journey, and also how other cities have used other types of studies to create the evidence needed to move forward with the circular economy strategies or roadmap. And without further ado, we can begin. Here are the speakers for today. We will hear not only from Natacha Beauchesne, Economic Development Commissioner for the Circular Economy in Montreal, but we also explore, as I mentioned before, another city circular journey with Meaghan Davis, Manager for Circular Economy and Innovation for the City of Toronto. And then we will move a step higher with a regional perspective brought by Etienne Anger, Team Leader for the Circular Economy and Waste Reduction at Recycle Quebec. And finally, Corey Pemberton is an advisor for both the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Circular City and Region Initiative, and he will instead introduce a more national level perspective on circular cities in Canada and how they can receive support to advance their effort. So before I leave the word to Natacha, who will start, again, you can submit questions via the Q&A function or via the chat. Lou and Pao will help me collect them, and we will answer them together at the end of our presentations. So welcome, Natacha, you can start.
Thank you, Claudia. So I'm very thrilled to be here today to discuss Montreal's journey towards accelerating the deployment of the circular economy in our beautiful city. So let me begin by giving you a quick overview of Montreal. Montreal is the French-speaking metropolis of the Americas and Canada's second largest city, with a population of 2 million, 1 million jobs, and 64,000 business establishments. Montreal is really the economic heart of Quebec, and we're proud of our city's vibrant economy with several hundred headquarters, numerous research hubs, and diverse industrial cluster. Notably, we have a research hub in specific in circular economy in Montreal, so we're very proud of it. And now with our circular economy roadmap to come, we're committed to really transforming our practices and mobilizing our rich business ecosystem towards a more sustainable, innovative, and prosperous economy. So like many major cities, Montreal has ambitious goals for its ecological transition, aiming for carbon neutrality by 2050 and zero waste by 2030. So to achieve these goals, we're really making a significant shift towards a greener and more inclusive economy by embracing the circular economy principles. Maybe what distinguishes us is that the City of Montreal is the economic development service that leads the charge in steering the circular economy. So that's why since 2019, we've been working tirelessly to develop the Montreal's first circular economy roadmap, which will be adopted soon. This process involves thorough consultation with the key stakeholders and collaboration with partners like OECD and Circular City and Region Initiative in Canada. So this approach really has allowed us to identify the main challenge to overcome, to the opportunities that we can seize and the action to take. So we have thus developed an ambitious roadmap project, which was subjected to the vast public consultation process in 2023 to mobilize all stakeholders and foster their buy-in. That was really what we wanted, it's foster their buy-in. So we've made progress, but there's more work to be done. And now, before we can propose avenue for change and solidify our vision to guide our roadmap, on a very firm foundation, it was also important to assess where we stand regarding circularity in Montreal. That's why, as a first step, we conducted an in-depth study in 2022 with the help of Circular Economy to map out material and resource flows in the key sectors like the food system, built environment, textiles, mobility, and logistics. This work has allowed us to identify pathways for enhancing our city's circularity. But this was really just the first step. The real challenge is really to translate this knowledge into concrete action for our action plan and assessing the actual impact of these actions on our city. That's why moving forward, like Claudia said, we're working with Circular Economy to produce a first Circularity Gap Report for Montreal, which will really help us measure our circularity baseline and identify the key interventions for change. So during the scan, we identified potential interventions that could make the city more circular, but we have not quantified their impact. So that was the first step. We didn't have the impact quantified. So now, via a scenario analysis, this next step with the CGR Montreal really aims to identify the key levers for change in moving to a circular economy and measure what is the potential impact of circularity on the carbon and material footprint of the city. Circular economy maps out the flow of material and resources in Montreal. That was one of the first steps, depicting the city's socioeconomic metabolism, so the processes of material consumption. And we examine the material flow within Montreal's urban economy, including the extraction of minerals, the fossil fuels, imported materials, sectoral consumption, waste generation, export of waste, and net addition to stock. So today, I'm very pleased to share some key findings from our research that is not published yet. So you really have, it's really a first for you today that are with us. So as you can see on the key insights, Montreal's high material consumption rate come at a significant environmental cost, and it's reflected in its large material and carbon footprints. Annually, Montreal consumes 57 million tons of virgin materials, equating to 27 tons per capita. So this exceeds the global sustainability targets. And this consumption correlates strongly with the carbon emissions in Montreal that contribute to a significant carbon footprint of 13 tons per capita. So although this consumption is lower than Quebec material footprint at 32 tons per capita and the Canadian average, it exceeds the global average and the sustainability target of 8 tons per capita that Claudia was talking about. And the same goes for the carbon footprint. Although it's lower than the national average at 19 tons per capita, the Montreal GHG emission is still above the sustainable level for a global perspective. So we also learned that Montreal's environmental impacts extend beyond its border. It wasn't a big secret, but we were able to measure it. So with approximately 70% of its carbon footprint that is generated externally, and more than half of the material that you use in the local economy are imported from outside Canada. So for the key insight, we've learned that certain sectors like built environment, manufacturing, and agri-food industries really are the drivers of material consumption. So to foster a more circular economy help us and recommends prioritizing circular practice in these sectors, which collectively account for over 60% of the city's consumption of virgin materials. So as you see, advancing Montreal circularity will require more than just scaling up recycling. It will really necessitate reducing material consumption and slowing down our metabolism. As we examine Montreal's material and carbon footprints, like I just said, it's evident that the circular efforts must expand beyond waste management and recycling. So Montreal must reduce overall resource consumption and optimize resource use within the economy to slow our metabolism. That's why, like Claudia said, circular economy explore 5 what-if scenarios to assess the impacts of transitioning to a circular economy and offering a significant potential for cutting our material and carbon footprints. And those what-if scenarios include building a circular built environment, transitioning to a circular food system, advancing circular manufacturing, redesigning mobility, and promoting circular lifestyles. And the potential impact of these interventions is significant. Like, as you can see, Montreal could cut its material footprints by 38%. And on a per capita basis, this will translate to a reduction from 27 tons to around 16.9 tons per year. So it will really go further. And furthermore, the combined scenarios offer also substantial emission reduction, with the carbon footprint potentially decreasing by 46%. So in summary, transitioning to a more circular economy in Montreal, what we learned is that it's offer a transformative potential, reducing environmental impact and moving towards a sustainable future. As you see, the future is circular in Montreal, with even more tools, with the CGR Montreal at our disposal. Montreal is really going forward in its journey towards a more circular economy. In the coming weeks, we will officially launch the Montreal Circular Economy First Roadmap, the first comprehensive planning document specifically tailored to drive circular transformation in our economy. Additionally, we will pursue our work to develop and launch later this year an action plan involving all municipal services to transition not just the administration, but the entire city towards circularity. And we will also continue our efforts to equip Montreal with additional indicators to really better understand and track our progress in the circular economy. Montreal, we are a big metropolis. We have all the ingredients to emerge as a leader in North America on circular economy. We benefit from a strong commitment from both political and administrative fronts towards ecological transition. We benefit from a vibrant ecosystem of engaged and mobilized partner and business of all sizes, numerous successful enablers, and a thriving research environment, and a supportive provincial context. Maybe I will just say bravo to the Quebec that just launched their roadmap on circular economy 2 days ago. So stay tuned, as you will see progress is happening quickly. And to conclude, I'm excited to announce that our full report, including Montreal Circularity Metric and the Circularity Gap, will be released in May. So this will provide further insight and recommendation on how we can collectively work towards a more sustainable and circular future for our city, and maybe inspire other cities in their journey to a more circular economy. And we will also release the methodology maybe a bit later, but I think that will help people that want to begin this journey. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Natacha. And indeed, if the QR code is not working, Lou has also shared in the chat where the report will be released in early May, so you can stay tuned for more on Montreal side. And thank you, Natacha. It's great to see all these efforts and actually understand the current resource use in a city and its emission. So we can really see the value of an evidence-based or evidence-guided decision making. Toronto has followed a similar journey. So Meaghan, now I leave the floor to you. I know that the circular economy in Toronto is driven by the solid waste division. So can you tell us a bit more about what research has informed your city circular journey so far, and where are you now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Claudia. And thanks everybody for joining us today. I think this is a really exciting time for the circular economy in Canada, and really happy to be able to share a little bit about Toronto's experience. Just recognizing there's a few people from outside of Canada on the line, just want to quickly introduce ourselves. For those of you who don't know, Toronto is Canada's largest city, the fourth largest city in North America, and we're really proud to be home to a diverse population of more than 3 million people. Toronto is a global center for finance, business, arts, and culture. And one thing we're very proud of, but doesn't necessarily always make those headlines, is that we're also really proud to operate one of the most comprehensive integrated waste management systems in North America. We strive to deliver innovative and sustainable waste management services for Toronto's residents and businesses and visitors. And through investments in low carbon technologies and regenerative systems and community activations, we're really proud to be offering a sustainable and quite circular waste management utility in Toronto. But it's really important to note for Toronto that our ambition and our mandate is larger than just frontline service delivery. As Canada's largest city, we're also striving to be a global solutions provider. And I think that we're a government with the scale and the scope to really have a national impact. So on the circular economy side, leaning into that ambition is going to be really critical to address some of the complex challenges and the cross-divisional interdisciplinary mandate around waste and the circular economy. There we go. So just to give a little bit of background on Toronto's circular economy goals, they were set in 2016 when our Toronto City Council adopted the long-term waste management strategy. And in that, there was a goal to become the first circular city in Ontario. And so the City of Toronto decided to found a dedicated business unit to focus on Toronto's circular economy journey, one of the first dedicated circular economy teams within a North American municipality. And really our responsibility is to look at how we can operationalize the aspirational goal of the circular economy that was set in the long-term waste management strategy, and really build out a strategy and policy framework to help us define what kinds of investments, policies, and programs will be necessary to turn that aspiration into a reality. And so over the past few years, we've been exploring that through analysis on our team, but also in collaboration with other City of Toronto divisions. As Claudia mentioned, I work in the waste division at the City of Toronto, but circularity is increasingly becoming a corporate strategic priority, identified and acknowledged in strategies like our Net Zero Climate Action Plan, our Digital Infrastructure Strategic Plan, our official plan for land use planning, and of course, our corporate strategic plan. Like Montreal, for us in Toronto, establishing a baseline for the circular economy was a really critical first step to help us build towards that strategy and policy framework. And we completed that study in 2022. One of the benefits of the baselining for a Circular Toronto project is it really helped us to articulate a compelling vision and potential circular goals that the City of Toronto can work towards. And then in future work for our circular economy roadmap, really look to refine with interested parties that have a stake in Toronto's circular economy transition. The study helped us to identify key sectors and community-wide opportunities for circularity, and it also really articulated for us the need for cross-corporate integration within the municipal government to realize Toronto's full circular potential. With the limited time that we have, I can't go through all of the details of this study, but one thing I would point you to is we thought it was really important to make all of this analysis available online. our material flow analyses, the data, and some of the information that we found on indicators and goal setting. So I invite anybody who's interested in following along Toronto's circular journey to visit toronto.ca/circular economy, and you can download all of these reports for yourself. But just to, oops, we've got to go back a second, just to focus on a couple of the key findings and the results from the study. One of the really important benefits was helping us to focus in on some of the core sectors where there are key issues and opportunities that circular intervention from the municipal government can address. And so for Toronto, we're really going to be focusing in on the waste sector, Toronto's construction sector, and the food system as priority areas for the circular economy portfolio moving forward. And the study also was really important to help us to start to quantify the issues and opportunities, especially around waste generation and consumption rates. And that's really helped us to demonstrate the environmental impact, but also opportunity of making a change in Toronto's circular economy. One of the important new bits of information that came out of baselining for a circular Toronto is it helped us to understand or start to understand what waste looks like in the city at a community-wide level. I mentioned at the start of the presentation that we're proud to operate one of the most comprehensive integrated waste management systems in North America. But one of the things that the baselining study helped us to demonstrate is that the city of Toronto itself only manages less than half of the waste being generated in our economy. So there's a major gap around material stewardship and making sure that the most sustainable outcomes are being achieved for all of the waste being generated in our economy, which we're estimating to be about 2.1 million tons of waste per year. Also, in terms of the scale and scope of material consumption, the construction sector is a huge part of Toronto's economy and a huge consumer of resources. So when we think about our impact on the natural environment, looking at stats like the fact that our construction sector consumes an estimated 17 million tons of material per year, that is an enormous amount of material consumption where we can make a difference on circularity. And then also, especially related to climate, our estimates are that the food-related carbon footprint in Toronto could be as high as 14 million tons of CO2 per year. So again, a real area of opportunity for us to start closing loops and working towards a more climate positive future for Toronto. The circular economy transition also presents a real opportunity for the equitable sharing of benefits in Toronto. There's a real opportunity for us to be looking to build a social circular economy, ensuring that those who are sidelined by the current linear economy are a part of our strategy development process and benefiting from the benefits of a circular economy transition. And also, really importantly, cities cannot do this alone. We can't move the needle on the circular economy by ourselves. We need a whole system transformation that allows different economic actors to align towards shared objectives and new policy and regulatory tools, as well as behavior changes. So that is going to invite innovation from residents, from businesses, from industry, and other orders of government who can all work in their own spheres alongside us to help achieve big picture circular economy goals. That, in addition to us needing to have all economic actors aligned on the circular economy transition, we need to align internally as well in the city of Toronto. So similar to what Natacha was describing, we're a big government. We deliver services every day to 3 million people. And so it's really important for us to start unlocking that whole of government potential if we really want to achieve Toronto circular city transition. So one of the core outputs of the baselining study for us has been working internally to make sure that we're well organized to really pull all of the levers that we have as a municipal government, looking at our policies, our programs, our investment opportunities across the corporation so that we can work together towards circularity. And so, while our solid waste division is responsible for managing the majority of residential waste generated in the city of Toronto, the baselining study helped us to articulate that all City of Toronto divisions have a role to play in achieving zero waste because they impact the generation of waste in the city, whether it's through the things that we do in our municipal operations and the delivery of capital and the things that we purchase, goods and services, or in the way that we regulate or enable businesses or community members to act. There's a real opportunity for us to be working together internally. And so staff have been directed through our net zero strategy to make sure that we have a governance table in place as we develop the circular economy roadmap. So we're really recognizing the need for integrated policy development. And there are multiple city divisions that are all going to be working together on our circular economy roadmap. And the roadmap itself is the major focus of our work plan this year and next. We are working right now on a 10-year strategy that's going to be recommending specific actions that the City of Toronto can take to improve circular outcomes within its own municipal service delivery, as well as create the conditions for positive circular outcomes in the community. And again, recognizing that we need other economic actors alongside us, we are hoping that this roadmap will offer inspirational directions and actions that other participants in Toronto's economy can take to align with the city's circular economy goals. We're really excited to be able to offer opportunities to participate in this project moving forward into this year. So especially if you're calling in from Toronto and you're interested in being part of this project, we do invite you to follow us at toronto.ca/circulareconomy. And when we start opening up that invitation for our community, we hope you'll be part of it, because there's a lot that we still need to learn and hear from the people of Toronto as we start to define what this exciting future transition looks like for the City of Toronto.
Thank you, Meaghan. And indeed, again, an inspiring example of how cities are working towards a circular economy. And I mean, I had the pleasure to work with both Montreal and Toronto, and the role also of circular champions and their team has been incredible. So thank you for sharing your journey, and we'll hear more. Now I'll leave the word to Etienne to actually take a bit more of a high-level perspective on another level of governance from the region, and also to share a bit a regional perspective on a circular journey. So I'll leave the floor to you.
So thank you so much, Claudia, and congrats to Meaghan and Natacha for their beautiful presentation. Always nice to see what's going on in the close city. So yes, Recyc Québec, you have our mission just right here on the screen for those of you who don't know us. So we're a governmental society that try to aim to have a Quebec without waste. And fun fact, the part about circular economy and climate change was added around 2016, so about 8 years ago, because we really felt that was going to help us to go faster and closer to our main goal to eliminate waste in Quebec. So first thing first about the cities, region, data, and Recyc Québec. So our main first element that we made, in fact, I'm going to show it with the Legos because I have kids, and that's a good example to see how data works. So from my part, when you have data around, you go, you search, you sort it, you arrange it, and you present it in a nice glossy report. So that's fun, but is that enough? No, of course not. You really have to explain it with a story, like CGR, as you see, or other report, to really have a narrative so people can see what they can do with it and make it actionable as well, so they can take action about that. They can move things and see what they can do for the community to move things. And last but not least, you have to communicate. So that's your stakeholders. So everybody working around you on that subject, you need to inform them, you need to reach out to them and to see what they need to orient our research data program. And that's basically what we do here at Recyc Québec on that subject. So the first big element, and around 2016, as we say, we started going forward much more with circular economy. And around 2020, we said that, yeah, we're doing lots of things, but can we do better? How we're doing? What are the next steps? So with the circular economy, with the first French version of the CGR outside of Europe and for a region, so quite a challenge that was in that year. And you have just right before your eye here, the nice spaghetti, so the Senki with how the resources flows through Quebec economy to see at the end, and it's not a scoop. We are at 3.5% of circularity in Quebec. So first challenge is how to communicate it, to make it actionable, so not to scare people, and to see what are the positive side of it. This means there's lots of things that can be done. We can go gather resources, reduce, reuse, recycle. So our main element after that was to communicate 37 different strategies and different topics, so people can reach out and see what they can do within their organization or city, depending on where we're at. So lots of communication over the last years to share that wisdom with the cities and region of Quebec and beyond. But then after that big, massive data element on circularity, we felt the need to go a little bit deeper on the data, deeper geographically. Quebec is a big province. There's thousands of kilometers between Montreal and other cities around the province. So one interesting study we did with partner was about circular economy in Northern Quebec territory. So when you're that far away, resources are expensive, are tough to have, you have to move them around. So it's a very great laboratory for circular economy, because you have to reduce at the maximum, reuse all your resources, and at the end you have to take care of the end of life of those. So we did that for that geographical aspect. And then we had more and more demand about more sectorial approach. Food with the inflation, with all the pollution that's related to it, the consumption of resources, super important. So in the last years, we need more studies and data for our partners about the quantification study of food and loss and waste in Quebec. Super interesting to really see what we can do, what are the part that we can help and make action to reduce the food loss and waste. And for our communities, region and city especially, we are the partner of the Love Food 8 Waste Canada initiative. So for the Quebec part, the French aspect, Recycle Quebec is helping with that. And we did some special tools for cities and region to communicate with their citizens and businesses on food waste, so especially to address that issue. So again, data more global and more specific to different situation lived by our partners. But then, since 2016, lots of projects on circular economy, geographically, on sector and everything. So in the cities, there was a demand to have more precise tool, to have a better vision with all the local stakeholders. So that's why we developed with partners again, a toolkit for developing and implementing a regional circular economy roadmap. So really to help our cities to have a wider view, to include all their partners, and to see, depending of the personality of the region, their economic life, what are the main action to push forward, what are the plan, what are the opportunities and challenges within their community to change things. So there's Montreal was going to release their roadmap soon, so looking forward for that, of course. But other regions started to do that exercise. We have the Laurentian, just north of Montreal, who's doing that at the moment as we speak. And Montérégie, southeast of Montreal, just released a couple of months ago their roadmap, and super interesting. It's really a push forward for circularity. We're very happy about this. So then, as we say, we have stakeholders, you have to communicate, you have to reach out. So Recycle Québec organized the 3 last edition of the Assises Québécoises de l'économie circulaire. So a big event, 2018, 400 person at the top left, and so sold out event. 2021, as you know, the pandemic, so in studio, and the last one in November, 600 person over 2 days gathered together. With workshop this time to really, again, speak with the community, see what are the needs for next steps, is it tools, financing, communication, everything. So really to help cities and region, always a big part of the programmation, but other organizations as well that are around circular economy. So very important to us. And you have to make it fun as well. The circular economy should be fun. So that's a little example we did, the key takeaways of the event. And if you look closely, maybe you'll recognize Natacha somewhere. It's a little bit of a fine, where's Waldo? But the message is to keep it simple, fun, to attract people and get your message through. Super important. And for next steps, you have a beautiful view of my last visit from the space station, of course, of Quebec, with the Manicouagan Reservoir to show you that circularity is embedded in Quebec territory, but we have to look beyond. So with our team, we just from the beginning of the year, we made about 30 presentations to different cities, region, other organizations to spread the message, the program, the data, and to get information as well from our community. We have partnership agreement with ADEM and friends to exchange tools, professional advice, experiences, to really have the best element to share here for a circular economy. And to come, two important elements. There, the CGR in 2021 that we made, but now we're going to look to widen the scope of view to see what is the impact of the strategies that we included in our report on the respect of the planetary boundaries. So about climate change, water, air pollution, and biodiversity, for example. So really to widen the conversation with other fields, other sectors that aren't quite touched with circular economy to date, but we want to again have data to start that discussion elsewhere. And of course, we're going to update our CGR Quebec in 2025. That's linked with us for to be sure we are on top of things, to see where we're going, to be sure we're doing the right thing. And as well as Natacha, there's a sustainable development plan here in Quebec that include a roadmap for circular economy for the government that was just released last Tuesday. So that's going to be one of the main indicators of that roadmap. And of course, very nice project, the Circular City and Region Initiative that link Canadian city from coast to coast to coast. So super important to us in Quebec. But I won't tell any scoop because my good friend Corey is going to tell you a little bit more about this project. So thanks again, Claudia, for the opportunity. And I'm going to share you the links for all the project in the chat by Lou. So thanks again.
Thank you, Etienne, and thank you for sharing all pictures of different people that have been involved. I'm sure that many of them are also in the audience, and it's clear that we're seeing a community forming. That was also clear at the forum in Brussels. So actually, maybe Corey can tell us a bit more about it, as he, as an advisor of the Circular City and Region Initiative that Etienne just mentioned. So over to you, Corey.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you, Etienne. That was a very nice introduction without any spoilers, so that's always good. And to Natacha, Meaghan, and Etienne, and really everyone, I really appreciate these presentations because we work together closely, but seeing the details of what you do is always fascinating. And all three of these leaders in circularity are members of the initiative that I'm going to talk about today. So it's a real privilege to have such an advanced group working with us. And well, so that's what I'd like to start with. And you'll see the fit in. So I'm working with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and as the name implies, it's a national organization which represents all municipalities in Canada, nearly, with over 2,000 members, cities. And when we were introduced with this project called the Circular Cities and Regions Initiative in 2021, it really aligned with our goals organizationally. So it just seemed like a natural fit. And now we're 3 years on and we just see more and more relevance, and we see the drive of circularity in Canada and abroad. And it's just such a fascinating topic, and it's such an effective way to make change happen at a municipal and regional level. A CCRI is a partnership program between FCM and the Metro Vancouver, Récit Québec, and the Recycling Council of Alberta. And we're dedicated to providing capacity building support for circular economy initiatives across Canada for municipalities and regions. So that's not just the large cities, but it's the rural spaces between, it's the regions and collective groups of cities. And one of our niche areas really is providing the capacity building focus, because yes, while we need resources to do the work, we also need the knowledge building. And that's really our main goal and drive. What have we been up to? Well, we do a lot of engaging and connecting and convening, which I think is a fundamental aspect of circular economy development. And that was Etienne's last point. It's about communicating. Yes, we need the technical skills, but also we need to communicate our results, and we need to introduce people to the more advanced cities, maybe in Europe, in Canada, and also to learn from those who are new. So we've done a lot in the terms of developing strategic roadmaps, helping cities move along their policies, and really engaging with municipal staff who are on the implementation side and getting them to move into how to scale things up within their city, across departments and across units, and also with their other cities in the region. So we've reached 2,200 practitioners internationally so far. We've provided that really critical strategic support to 25 cities through roadmap and strategy development. And we have an offering for various pieces for one-on-one coaching and related services. So really it's about helping the city staff achieve what they want to achieve in their goals. Something that is fundamental to our work and that we really believe is that by building stronger relationships between cities and their external stakeholders, national organizations, for-profit sector, regional governments, what we're doing is connecting them so they can share their learnings and see where there's connecting pieces that they can benefit from. And we've seen this successful in several regions across Canada just by introducing folks. They see that there's connectivity, and that's how the wheels start turning for moving towards becoming a circular economy. We see a strong business case for it in Canada. We see a strong sort of political case, really, for cities and their regions at the council level and beyond to work together to try to achieve their goals. And actually, they're stronger. So when we talk about working together, we're not just talking about doing one-off projects, but expanding the scale and scope and depth of the work they're doing. It's something I'm quite proud of. And the work that we see happening in Montreal and Toronto, while they're the biggest cities in Canada, it's applicable to smaller communities as well. Getting the different units, getting the diverse stakeholders together is just a fundamental piece. And that's something we really strive for at CCRI. Getting the necessary folks into the room to discuss, problem solve, and see that maybe the circular economy idea isn't so far-fetched. And actually, it's something we were likely already doing in the first place, which is usually the outcome of these. So in this way, what we're really doing is finding the connecting pieces between these complex municipal stakeholders, bringing them together and providing them with the resources that they need. And while CCRI provides capacity building support, the Green Municipal Fund, which is a program within the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, provides financial support for some of these initiatives in our latest update on our funding offer and otherwise. So I saw there were a lot of Canadian municipalities and municipal staff in the room today. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to check out the Green Municipal Fund website. We do have funds available for circular economy and related initiatives. And for those who aren't from Canada, I can inform you a little bit about GMF. So the Green Municipal Fund, it leverages $1.65 billion of investments from the Government of Canada to provide resources and tools to cities through the way of loans and grants. And our goal is to transition towards a resilient, net zero, sustainable future. This, of course, goes far beyond circular economy, but I would say that the circular economy itself touches on a lot of the things that we fund, whether it's fleet electrification, climate adaptation work, or building energy efficiency. So there's just the interconnections are so strong. And talking about CCRI and how we leverage this money, where do we connect the pieces? GMF, in many ways, in addition to providing funds, we also see ourselves as a convener and a capacity builder in our own right for different topics. So through CCRI, we're able to sort of address some of the complex challenges in circularity that we've heard at the WCEF all week and that we all know through our work. So through our partners in CCRI and through our own work within FCM, we're finding ways to connect the cities and regions together to make things happen, because as we all know, circularity doesn't happen in a bubble, and it's definitely not a closed system. Circular sort of measures and circular initiatives, they run far beyond the political boundaries of a single municipality, a city, a district. So it's really about connecting the players that we can have. One of the ways that we've been doing this, I will just go back. In fact, one of the ways that we've been doing this is by connecting circular measures into our funding streams at GMF. So you can look at both of these, and I can provide more details in the chat. We are asking for requirements now in sustainable materials management across all of our funding streams. And this is an interesting and I think a very innovative concept. We're considering the carbon cost, say, of deconstructing an old building and replacing it with a new one. And all of these pieces, they add towards that total that Natacha and Meaghan were talking about when we talk about the municipal waste of 17 to 20 tons per person. That contributes to it, and we're looking to account for that in our funding streams. We also have a new funding stream, which I think many people on this call will find interesting, and it's called the Net Zero Transformative Projects stream. I'll put the link for this in after. This includes local circular economy initiatives for apparel textiles and construction demolition materials that are currently going to the landfill, but it is not only restricted to that, as there are other things on food waste and other sectors and other funding streams. So if you have ideas for pilot projects, feasibility studies, and other sort of pre-capital projects that you have in mind, reach out to me and I can put you in touch with the right people for that transformative initiative that you have. And I just want to end with some really positive notes and lessons from CCRI. I can't stress enough the amount of positive feedback that we get. I have dozens of testimonials of people who have participated in this initiative, just really saying, thanks for getting our foot in the door to talk to other people. And this is not just from the participants, this is from their counselors, this is from their mayors, this is from all the way to the top, because they see how it applies. And I would really encourage, if you're in this call, you're interested in circular economy, you should inquire about participating in CCRI if you're a municipality or a representative of a region, such as in Quebec and MRC. So thank you very much. Thanks again, Claudia, for the time to speak about CCRI and GMF today.
And thank you, Corey, for being perfectly on time. We wanted to indeed use the first hour to learn from others and see where they're at in their journey and what kind of things they are offering and what kind of things they're doing. And actually, Corey, that was also very insightful to know that indeed measures and monitoring is not only for setting the baseline and having a story to tell, but also to access funding so that you have those indicators to show what is the potential impact. And I think that was also a common thread throughout the World Circular Economy Forum on circular indicators and access to funding opportunities to scale up the transition. So, well, thank you so much for answering our questions. So now we'll use the remaining time to address the question from the audience. We've received some from the Q&A. I have Paolo here to help me moderate this discussion, and we can kick it off actually maybe with the one question that is for Corey, our last speaker, very practical. What is the eligibility of applying for the Green Municipal Fund from Michael Ying? Maybe you can take that.
Sure. I'm actually going to provide a link in the chat for everyone who has that question. There are different criteria for different types of funds, but you can see who can apply. The main pieces is that it's for Canadian municipal governments and for project partners of municipalities, and that includes private sector entities, nonprofit organizations, and indigenous communities. But it's the partnering with municipalities aspect that's the key word there.
Thank you, Corey. And I think, yeah, from the link, more information will be available. Maybe for a more general question that maybe, Corey, you can help me answer as well, from Medard. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. They would like to know if there are any partnership programs to share experiences with institutions across countries. So within the CCRI, I know you've been doing a lot of work at a Canadian level. Are there any other institutions or like programs for learning from others more internationally? I can also complement with some that circular economy work with.
Yeah, Medard, I would be, and the other partners would be happy to speak in more detail. At CCRI, we have done some international outreach, and we would love to be able to learn and exchange from each other. So I'll be sure to put my contact information in the Q&A.
And from our perspective, I mean, we do work internationally as an impact-driven foundation. We are based in Amsterdam. I'm in the office in Amsterdam now, but we work globally with many cities and regions. In Europe, at the European level, there is the Circular City and Region Initiative as well, the European counterpart. They work with the pilot and fellow cities, so you can kind of connect through that platform. There is also the Circular City Declaration, which is coordinated by ICLE, the local government for sustainability. They have launched their report yesterday, so that's also another platform that you can use to learn from different cities around the globe. There's a knowledge hub on the Circular City and Region Initiative European counterpart, where you can use case studies, and also Circular Economy has a knowledge hub where you can learn more from different circular strategies being implemented globally. Maybe another one, lots is happening, and especially after this World Circular Economy Forum, there are many new initiatives. Another initiative that has launched this morning actually is the Circular City Center led by the European Investment Bank. They're also going to work with 100, ambitious target of 100 cities for the next 4 years on developing circular economy roadmap and strategies, but also in providing more technical support to develop projects. So that's also something that we can share and that you can keep an eye on for learning from international best practices.
And if I may, Claudia, there's the Quebec Circulaire platform. So to see what's going on in circularity in Quebec and beyond, because it's linked with other platforms in Europe. And there's a special section for Montreal on that platform. So feel free to have a look, and it's bilingual.
Thank you, Diane. And maybe, I don't know, Natacha, Meaghan, if you have participated in any other programs to learn from others, from other cities internationally that you want to share?
Sure. I think the one that I would point out, and I think it's been mentioned already, is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation convenes a network of circular cities around the world to share findings and kind of update each other on what we're doing and some of the challenges we're facing and success stories. So that's been a really great avenue for the city of Toronto to connect with peers globally, and also to connect through the EMF to other circular cities and regions initiatives. So I recently had the pleasure of meeting with some of the cities participating in the UK Circular Cities and Regions Initiative to share a bit about our work. And then I maybe outside of the kind of circular economy networks of people, the City of Toronto has, especially through our protocol office, relationships with other cities. We convene study tours. So there's also opportunities from a city to city basis to share this information. And it is a really important avenue for us to be able to build networks with our peers, to talk shop and to really kind of, troubleshoot some of the specific challenges within a municipal government context that we're all working towards.
Thank you, Meaghan. Indeed, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing a lot of work also on circular cities. Natacha, I don't know if you had any other example to add. I know you've shared.
We have worked with other cities, like Etienne said, on the platform with Montreal Circular, but it was more, I will say, informal. We work with OECD, and they have a lot of various cities they work with in circular economy. And we have worked with, in the Canadian side, with the City and Circular Region Initiative. So those are the kind of things we do. We do a lot of things, I will say, more It's more we connect with one city and we work together and we exchange information and things like that. It's not as formal as a group like as those initiatives.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed, there can be informal working groups as well, and I think the World Circular Economy Forum also provides that platform online for online and in-person participants. Then looking at other questions, maybe still for Natacha and Meaghan, so Montreal and Toronto, from Bob Hall. I'm wondering, within Montreal and Toronto, do you have circular economy zones established where you want to collect materials for processing and move market locally, regionally, or internationally? And if so, how much funding is forecasted in each city to foster these circular material flows to 2030? I don't know who wants to start, maybe Meaghan or Natacha, both.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great suggestion. We don't currently have a model like a circular economic zone. I think one of the opportunities through our upcoming industry consultations on the circular economy roadmap is going to be, you know, connecting with the industry members who are the actual owners or stewards of those materials to see what opportunity the City of Toronto can have to sort of foster that type of market development. Certainly, you know, within our own waste system, we do have our kind of our own processes and flows for those materials, but you know, it's a good suggestion and one that I think we're really looking forward to teasing out opportunities like that with the keepers and managers of waste within our city.
As Toronto, we don't have like a circular economy specific zone established, but what we do is we work with, we found a symbiosis, an industrial symbiosis organism. It's called Synergie Montréal, and they do synergy between industry for the waste and things like that, because now in Quebec, we have a big new way of doing waste material with eco-entreprises that take the lead of those resources. So what we do now, we try to work on the economic and industrial side to help them do a better I have just the word in French, sorry, management of the waste and how they do that. So we're working on that. I will say Synergie Montréal work with thousands of businesses in Montreal to look at their waste and try to find a way to do those kind of synergies that between industry that they can do. So I think we will pursue this work and go a bit further.
Thank you both. And actually, that was a very good question from Bob, because we also had a session during the event in Brussels. So I hope that the recording will be available soon on urban planning and how urban planning could be an enabler, and how you can actually design these kind of zones within the cities. So I think it was a session on the 17th. So you can find that back on the program, because urban planning is often an overlooked tool that cities have to leverage and enable the circular economy. In terms of best practice from this side, Leuven has implemented various material banks and designated areas for this areas where you can store materials. So that's also a good example to have a look, and they also presented during that session. So you will find a good engaging presentation of the deputy mayor from Leuven explaining how they've done it. I hope that answered the question. Maybe to follow up on this circular material flows within cities, as Bob also asked, if extended producer responsibility policy will play a role at the provincial and national level. So maybe that's more from the perspective of Etienne and Corey. I don't know if you're working with extended producer responsibility, and what are your main takeaways for the future of the circular economy in that sense in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. So here in Quebec, we have extended producer responsibility for various materials to be sure that we capture most of those material at the end. Recent curbside recycling plans here are under extended producer responsibility right now. Same thing as for deposit refund. So yes, it's a solution, but we need to have the all different circular economy strategies. So at the end, eco-design, repair, reuse. So it's part of the solution, but it's not the magic wand to make the resources use at their best. We need to have the whole vision to make sure we have a Quebec without waste or other parts. So yes.
And Corey, I don't know if you had any take on EPR schemes.
I think EPR is different in each jurisdiction across Canada, and I'm not a specialist in it. I just know that it's something that we're watching closely at the Green Municipal Fund because it does have an impact on how municipalities manage and work with waste.
I think then Bob, you can follow up with all our speakers, and they all seem to work with the APR schemes or monitor them closely. Also in Europe, that's definitely something that is gaining more and more traction. If we look at other questions, maybe for Meaghan, there was one question, I think anonymous. How does the material flow analysis conducted as part of the baseline study inform or is informing the development of the roadmap? Has this study been utilized during co-design sessions, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question. And certainly the findings of the baselining study, including the material analysis, are a starting point for the development of our road mapping work, and they will be a starting point for discussions with interested parties in the future. One of the key differences with the material flow is it really helped us to quantify what's moving in Toronto, recognizing, of course, there's data gaps and assumptions baked into that. But I think what we really want to dive into with our partners, especially on the private sector side, is the why. Why are those materials being consumed and moved the way that they are? In particular, teasing out some of the policy and regulatory forces that might be influencing that, as well as market forces that we need to better understand before the City of Toronto defines the specific actions and interventions it's going to take. So the material flow analysis is a really critical starting point for those discussions.
Well, happy to hear, as indeed, like the baseline is often a key starting point for many cities. There are a few more general questions, maybe that circular economy can answer to. So it's actually a question for circular economy. When you are baselining municipality, do you find that areas of focus vary significantly, or are there common areas, so food economy, that everyone is working on? Well, I think if you look at the baselining studies for both Montreal and Toronto, you will find that there are very big commonalities. For example, built environment. Cities are mainly live and constituted by buildings. So built environment is a big contributor to both material and carbon footprints. Food consumption especially also. So built environment and food systems are often common focus areas. But of course, then there are key sectors that are very specific to different cities because they have different manufacturing industries. For example, Montreal has also focused on their textile industries and mobility to bring also that material perspective into the discussion on sustainable and low carbon transportation. So I think food and built environment definitely are common, but then there are different priorities on which cities actually focus on. For example, Richmond has also focused their strategy on resilient ecosystems, so also looking at the regenerative side of things. I hope that answered the questions. And actually there is, maybe we can share it in the chat, there is the data that we presented at the beginning of the session on all circular economy strategies in Europe by the Jaspers project. There is actually a database, an Excel file that you can open, and all key focus areas for all, well, in this case, European cities are listed, so you can see commonalities and differences. And maybe to go back to our panelists, there was a question also for Etienne, or maybe Corey as well, from a national perspective. What kind of waste management solution is the government of Canada looking at right now? And also perhaps maybe we can look at not just waste management solution, but also other circular economy solutions at the earlier stages. So not just at the waste level, but also maybe on the design perspective. But the question was more about waste management solution.
Yeah, I can talk for the whole of Canada, but I can talk for Quebec. So, and the last year, of course, we made big progress on recycling because that was kind of the main strategy. But more and more, we're looking upwards on reduce, reuse, repair, eco-design, truly to prevent the production of waste. And when there's resources available, to be sure to be able to repair your thing, reuse it, share it, give it. So really to have that whole view of the cycle. I'm looking forward for our next waste management plan in Quebec in the next years that will be updated. So I guess that would be the main way to go. And as well as we said before, there's the governmental CE roadmap that just was launched. So really to help the whole of government in Quebec have the same vision on CE and different programs to be sure that tourism, mines, education, hospital, everything. So have that kind of the same view and we all push forward in the same direction.
And Corey, I don't know if you want to complement that more Canadian perspective nationally.
I can't speak to the Government of Canada's initiatives. I'm not a representative of the Government of Canada, but I can speak to some of the initiatives that we're doing at the Green Municipal Fund, which is funded by the Government of Canada. There's a couple of new offers that touch on it. Some of the most, I would say, innovative ones I can put for the funding stream. We have actually quite a few that would cover the waste sector. And I think one of the most interesting ones in this sector might be the Organic Waste to Energy program. So this is about using organics for waste generation. That's a new stream, which I'll put a link in for the chat. But in terms of national other programs, I'm not too familiar with them.
Thank you. I think like whatever you can share will definitely complement this answer. We have a few more questions left. Maybe for, I mean, I guess like this is for everyone from Richard Fahey. Do you think that zero waste objectives contribute to a greater circular economy? Should government implement set to facilitate a circular economy? I don't know, Natacha, you have a zero waste objective, so how much it has helped you?
I think it will help. It's helping us a lot. The next waste management plan that will be released in 2025 will have a more focus on circular economy. So I think that it's really helped us, but at certain point, because the waste management is more for small businesses and citizens. So that's why it's so important to work closely all the departments, the economic development departments and the environmental departments, because we have different strategies that can help all the waste that we produce in Montreal in a whole. They're looking at the citizen waste, we're looking more at the business waste. So I think that yes, the zero waste objective and things like that can really can really help. But like I said, and like Etienne said, we need to focus more on the reduction at the source. And before our material footprints, we have to reduce our material footprints at the source. That's the only way we will achieve it, even if we have a better recycling rates and everything, it won't really change. So I think that we're really working on that way, and that's where we're going forward.
And that's great to hear on really like kind of a beginning of the pipe solution to really reduce before we reuse and recycle. Actually, we had that remark also from Meaghan in Toronto, because indeed the circular economy is often led by different departments. Can you tell us a bit more, Natacha, on what other departments have been involved in the process so far? Which one will be involved in the development of the roadmap that will be released in early May, and how exactly that integration and discussion worked?
Yes, we have various city departments that have been really actively involved in the process of developing the roadmap for the circular economy. Because we really think that it goes beyond the economic development responsibilities. For instance, we have the Ecological Transition Office and the Environment Department that collaborate on enacting bylaws that promote circularity and raising awareness among citizens. We have the Procurement Department that will integrate circularity principles into the city procurement processes. We are a big, we buy more than $3 billion a year in services and goods. So we can influence the market a lot. We also have the Building Management and Planning Department that will lead example by incorporating circular practices into their municipal work sites and things like that. But really, we have worked with them in the elaboration of the roadmap, but it will be really in the next stage when we will conduct, we will have the action plan that all of the city department will be involved regarding how we can include circular economy in their activities and in their program and everything. So I think that it will really lay the foundation for a successful transition in the circular economy in Montreal. I always joke that I speak more to my colleagues from the Environment Department and the other department than my own colleagues in the economic development, but it's really a work that we work together. Like I just have some news when I was with you, so some of my colleagues have other initiatives, so it's really popping up very fast in Montreal.
Well, that's great to hear. Indeed, like this inter or cross departmental work is really needed, also because some people might be doing circular economy initiatives already, and they just might not find like the umbrella where to put them, but they might be circular to begin with. And maybe in Toronto, there is also a circular economy division overseeing the work of circular economy. Maybe Meaghan, you also want to say something about how you have organized this work internally between departments, both so far, and I mean, I don't know if you already have a plan for how you will do it in the drafting of the roadmap, but more.
Sure, and just to clarify, it's not a division, it's just one business unit. I wish it was a division, that would make my life a lot easier. But yeah, so as I mentioned in the presentation, governance is really important for the approach that we're taking with the circular economy roadmap. At the end of 2021, when Council adopted the revised net zero strategy for the City of Toronto, there was an action within it for staff to really focus on governance, because as I mentioned, there's only so much that one division can do to move forward a circular economy. There's only so many regulatory tools that the waste division has, but collectively at the City of Toronto, we have an enormous toolkit and an enormous opportunity to influence behavior and to make investments in the community. And so we have been working internally as we've gotten ready to launch the roadmap to really start to communicate the value proposition to the different functional areas within the City of Toronto. We have been convening the divisions in particular who have a scope of influence or who even are participating in the sectors of focus for the circular economy roadmap to join. And our approach has been both a top-down and a bottom-up. We are trying to really focus on staff engagement with this project, unlocking subject matter expertise. But what's really important for us as well is to make sure that the senior leadership is aware and bought in and a part of the decision making, because the last thing we want to do is build a strategy within one silo of the City of Toronto, and then when we come to implement it, realize that the implementation options that we've selected aren't feasible, that they can't be resourced, etc. So making sure that the senior leadership team is a part of this process is really critical for us. And so, it's been a bit of a journey, because the City of Toronto is a large municipal government. It takes time. And I think that's something that, when I'm talking with other colleagues in Canadian cities who are looking at how they can build towards this kind of a strategy in their own communities, I think knowing from the outset that so many people need to be involved in making the investment in those people, the investment in their learning, their capacity, and really communicating the value add for them is a really critical part of the work plan. And we're starting to see the payoff, much like Natacha was describing, in terms of the amount of initiative and ideas that are coming from people across the organization, the number of people who are excited about this, and who are starting to understand circularity as more than a waste problem, but really a collective city building problem that we can address together.
Yeah, and maybe also from an extent, there was another question that now I read for work with other external stakeholders. So it's great that all this work has been coordinated internally across departments, but as Meaghan, you said, cities cannot do this alone. So how did you engage with external stakeholders within this community of the city? Like they were asking about NGOs, the Smart City Association, other Circular Economy Association. How did you integrate them into the discussion, if you did? And maybe what would be the key ingredients for a successful inclusion of all this in the development of a circular economy roadmap for a city?
Yeah, so again, the circular economy roadmap is on the work plan for this year. So a lot of those dialogues are forthcoming. But an important part of the baselining study was to start mapping out who are the different participants in the circular economy, or who could be participating in the circular economy, and better understanding the potential role that they can play, including the role of the City of Toronto, because I think that there's sometimes a bit of a disconnect between what people want a city government to be able to do and what a city government can actually do, given its legislative powers and the different jurisdictional considerations that we have. And I think it was Etienne that was mentioning that the waste policy context across Canada isn't harmonized. There's a different approach in each kind of province, and so I think it's really important that we are being locally focused in the development of our roadmap, that we're being true to what are the issues, the needs, the areas of opportunity, and the aspirations within Toronto as we work to develop a Made in Toronto plan. And so certainly for us, making sure that we are kind of creating a space for many voices to participate in building this strategy is going to be important. And also the information sharing that we have to do as the City of Toronto is going to be a critical part of the communications around this project. We have really valuable partners at both the province of Ontario and the government of Canada that we want to make sure we're bringing along in this journey, and to the extent to which the work we're doing locally can help those bigger picture conversations, we want to feed into that. And so that's going to be very, very important for us as well, that sort of two-way dialogue with all the potential participants in this circular economy transition.
Yeah, indeed, that I think like there will be support needed also from other level of governance. Maybe to link on that, what Recycle Quebec from a regional perspective does offers support for cities. Maybe Etienne, you can tell us a bit more about how Recycle Quebec has worked with cities and regions so far, and what is the province currently offering in terms of support now?
Yes, of course. So it first started with the industrial symbiosis back in 2016. So as Natacha said, those local advisor that take waste from a business and make it for a resource for another. So that was our first big program with Circularity, kind of a doorway to enter the different cities and region. And that was a great success because we really developed that community in Quebec under the Synergie Québec. So lots of advisors all across the province helping to turn waste into resources from the start. But then after that, they were looking for other CE strategies. So how to repair, to reuse, to eco-design, and we supported that again. And at the end, now we're looking at regional roadmaps all over the province, slowly but surely, with those community and various communities. Sometimes it was led by environmental NGOs, sometimes by the Chamber of Commerce, sometimes by the city. So it's very various depending of the local network. So basically, we offer now with the cities We offer data information, access to the CCRI project, of course. We offer different conference and element on different sector like construction, food and waste. So lots of resources available on our site or with us. So don't feel free to reach out if you want more infos. And we're always looking forward to hear from our different partner on the field to see what are the next steps needed.
I mean, interesting to see indeed as this topic comes back as really like a community-based work with many different actors, because it is a holistic system change that we're looking at. So Impact Fund, the Dreamer Foundation, like Circular Economy, we're also part of a bigger network, and we always look to partner up also with local partners when we work with cities that are a bit far away from our office in Amsterdam. So I think that's great to hear that this community is forming also in Canada, as we've seen it forming in Europe. Maybe I mean, I don't think there are many more questions from the audience. I think we did them all. Another maybe concluding question for Corey, if you want to elaborate on other opportunities that FCM or CCRI or GMF offered to support municipalities on top of what you presented, or if you want to add anything on the type of support that is more available at national level.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'd really like to speak to is how we can connect the sort of starting communities, the cities that are just on the considering phase, they have maybe some plans in place, or maybe it's in the ideation stage. I want to consider how we can better support them through CCRI, through capacity building and knowledge sharing from the other leading regions and cities. I think the resources that Etienne has shared and has available are a great starting point. We have some at GMF as well, but being able to get those folks who are, let's say, circularity curious, I think getting them into the door and seeing that it's not necessarily a brand new concept, it's one that you're very familiar with and a good framing to advance your stuff. So if you're in that stage and you're on this call, I would say that it's never too early to start, because everyone had to start it somewhere at some point, and regardless of the size of your community.
Thank you for the optimistic view. And I think, yeah, we do not have other questions, maybe for all. And we've talked about monitoring progress and indicators for the circular economy. I don't know, from a city perspective or a regional perspective, how do you plan to keep monitoring all of this, and how we can kind of like follow up and see also ourselves how you plan to measure your impact and how we can follow your journey in the future. I don't know, Natacha, if you want to start, if you have a plan to keep monitoring the circularity.
I think that we've taken the initial steps by measuring the circularity index with the circular economy. So with the Circular Gap Report, that's one step, but we need more indicators really to really comprehend to really measure the circularity of our economy. That's why we are exploring right now the feasibility of implementing other metrics for Montreal, such as a material productivity index, or really tracking the number of jobs linked to the circular economy. We're using your methodology to explore that. We're also exploring the possibility of establishing an industrial database that will contain information on businesses that are engaged or are adopting circular business models from Montreal. This is crucial because currently we don't have, we lack comprehensive data for that. We don't have industry classification codes or things like that. So I think that's the thing we're looking to do. And also with the roadmap and the action plan, we'll have other indicators to really follow the progress. So it's looking ahead, it's all to be in plain, it ought to be put in place, but one of our primary challenge in the coming years, I think, will really revolve around data, how we can collect and utilize them to really effectively monitor and for our progress in advancing the circular economy. It's really tough right now, and to compare ourselves because everybody use different methodologies, and sometimes we have to use data that are at a national scale, and to do an approximation for a city scale, it's really difficult, and the boundaries and everything. So, but we're looking to maybe push forward the reflection, and even if it's not perfect, I think it gives us an idea of where we're at and where we want to go, and if we're going the great direction. I will say, don't let the perfection get in the way of progress. So I think that's what we're doing. We're trying to start the work on monitoring and those kind of action.
And it's great to close this forum on such a high note and optimistic view, because indeed help is on the way as well with the work on indicators. The circular economy has been heavily involved in many organizations. The ISO standard organization is working on defining a bit better the circular economy. And the CSRD, the new directive for corporate reporting, is also going to help. I don't know if Meaghan, you also wanted to add something on monitoring this progress and how you at Toronto are tackling this challenge.
I mean, very similar experience to Natacha. We have a starting point for this, but really need to drive into some of the specifics about data availability. Definitions is really critically important. And I think also for us, really wanting to, in recognition that moving towards a circular economy is supposed to be a means to an end, really working with our community to define what are those ends, what are we actually trying to accomplish. It's not just about measuring the flow of a material, but what's the point of changing the flow of that material? What are we trying to accomplish through that? And then from there, building out a measurement and reporting strategy. Of course, if we report on waste and climate related initiatives through a variety of mechanisms at the City of Toronto. So anyone who's interested in following that can look to our ESG reports, our annual reports on the net zero strategy and on the long-term waste management strategy. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done to define our goals and our measurement strategies.
And yeah, we look forward to see how that would also take shape with the new roadmap. We do not, I kept asking questions, if it will give some time for the audience to also come up with other questions, but I don't see anyone else asking anything in the Q&A section. So maybe to wrap things up, maybe give hopefully 10 minutes back to our audience. From all our panelists, maybe what are you looking to learn from Europe, and what can Europe learn from Canada in the circular economy space? So I know that our audience is quite diverse, so maybe we can give this perspective back. Open to anyone to start. I don't know, maybe Corey, you want to start?
Sure. I think some of the sessions that I attended yesterday and seeing where they're at in Copenhagen and Oslo, it's a lot that we can learn from what they're doing at different parts of the life cycle of consumption, and how municipalities I think are playing a slightly more integrated role in their citizens' life, including through providing food and other things, and sort of managing the system from start to end. I think that's very fascinating, and that's something that we could learn from for sure. But there's lots to do, and I look forward to working with European cities and cities all over the world in the future.
Anyone else of our panelists want to add?
I think that what we can learn, it's particularly in regularity matters with where Europe is often more advanced on its approach than we have here, such as bigger extended producer responsibility and things like that on sectors that we don't have already yet, and textiles and other things. So I think that we have a lot of things that we can also learn from them on that perspective. For us, that's something that we're looking for, and that after that we will ask Quebec and Canada to put in place those kind of regulation that can help the city after that to really implement the circular economy, because we don't have the same power that they do. So I think that's that kind of thing that we're learning a lot on Europe.
Yeah, I would echo Natacha's comment. I think in Quebec, we're more kind of a bottom-up approach, so lots of communities, discussion, exchange, and try to fill the needs of the partners that we have on the field. And Europe more top-bottom, so for regulation, rules, bike directive, Global Europe funds, they have lots of super interesting initiatives that we could maybe dig a little bit deeper and see how we can adapt them for our context, of course.
Thank you, everyone. And I think we hope that this is one of the first sessions to make this parallel and keep learning more from each other, because we know also that Europe can also learn a lot from this more bottom-up approach that Canadian cities and regions are adopting. But we can have a few concluding remarks moving on. And thank you again to all our panelists for the discussion. Before we close, we actually wanted to just take stock of a few of the key messages that we want to leave you with today. There are many, as you can see, the slide is quite packed. Well, what we wanted to convey today is that we think that indeed there is a need for a strong evidence to support impactful decisions across governance levels and gather the support from both public and political spheres. But to get that evidence, we do need a diverse array of indicators to measure and monitor circularity, and that has been proven to be quite challenging, but as we said, help is on the way, and this will become clearer so we can actually see and monitor the impact that circular strategies have. And we're doing this mainly because we think that circularity is a means to an end to reduce both material and carbon footprint in our cities. So it will not only be, as Natacha said, about recycling more, but really about reducing the consumption of European and Canadian cities, one of the richest in the world. And finally, cities cannot do this alone. As Meaghan also emphasized, mobilization, collaboration, networking are key for implementing the circular economy on the ground and make it feasible. And overall, cities and regions to do this, they will need mainly two things: funding and capacity building, so support to bring circular initiatives to scale. And learning from others is a way to get this. And we hope that this session today helped answer some of these questions and actually inspire people to connect and learn from others. Again, before we conclude, do not forget to have a look at our Circularity Gap Report from Montreal, publishing in early May, and together with the new Circular Economy Roadmap of the city. And one last thing for more the European audience, but also for the Canadian audience to kind of learn from each other. That was our last question during our panel discussion. We talked a lot about the Circular City and Region Initiative in Canada, but Europe also has its own CCRI. It's a multi-stakeholder platform and a support scheme, and it brings together different perspectives to advance what they call like circular systemic solution in Europe. And here, what we want to bring the attention is on a specific part of it, that is project development assistance initiatives. For PDA, so project development assistance initiatives, are basically free consulting services that are funded by the European Union for circular projects, both in public and private sector, to overcome a few barriers, regulatory or market issues. So we basically support through these initiatives projects across Europe to become investment ready, and access the resources that they need to scale up. We wanted to conclude with two examples of these initiatives, Circular Invest and Definite CCRI. They are two examples of these PDAs. They have slightly different approaches, slightly different methodologies, and different partners involved as well. But the main thing is that if you want and you have a project at hand, we are still recruiting projects to receive this kind of development assistance services. For example, to improve the business plan or to review the financial of the project, and you can apply, being it's the project from a city, but also from the private sector. We're receiving calls until September 2024. The website is on the slide. EU projects are eligible, so European countries, but also Horizon associated countries. So there is a full list available of other countries that are eligible. For now, Canada is not on the list, but it might be soon. We know that from November 2023, the government of Canada started negotiation with the European Commission to join Horizon Europe as an associated country. So we hope that more will follow. But we wanted to bring this initiative to your attention. I hope you still see the slide. And oh, maybe this. Yeah. And if you have a circular, well, regardless of the country where you are, there is also a network, a circular investment readiness network. Is a bit of a mouthful, sorry, but you can join the network via the QR code, and we organize webinars, events, pitch session, so that all circular projects can get the recognition that they deserve. No eligibility criteria applies, so please just join the LinkedIn group to keep informed. And I think with that, that was it. Again, thank you all for participating. Thank you to our panelists. It was great to open the door to a Canadian perspective at this World Circular Economy Forum, but we're sure that many updates will follow. So have a good day, everyone. And well, 10 minutes earlier, so hope you make use of those.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.